Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It's Friday! Thank God. Day 111. June the 23rd, 2017. Well, here in southern Ohio, we've been socked in with rain. Started raining this afternoon. Been socked in all day. It's going to be raining for the next 24, 36 hours. Getting a lot of rain from the tropical storm down there, I guess, in the Gulf. And I'm sure that a lot of you south of me, Kentucky and Tennessee and Georgia, the Carolinas probably, the Panhandle, probably getting a lot of rain as well. And so we're just kind of dealing with the effects. But I'm actually one of those strange people that likes rainy days for some reason. I don't know why. But for some reason, I've always kind of liked rainy days. Wouldn't want it to rain every day. But there's just something about a rainy day that, I don't know. I'm just one of them people, I guess. I kind of like, rain. I don't know what it is. It's interesting. But anyway, a lot of things going on. A lot of fun things going on for today's TowerGate. Nothing too much going on with their surveillance, wiretapping, hearings, anything like that, other than the things that we've been talking about. Obviously, it is that time of year where the Congress doesn't do a lot, and kind of goes to a point that was brought up in the comment section by Maura about the schedule for the Congress and the President in the summer. Of course, the President really doesn't take so much of a summer, the whole summer off or anything like that. He'll grab a couple weeks vacation, maybe. Most presidents do in the summer. But for the Congress, that pretty much, for the Congress, August is pretty much the month when Congress pretty much goes home. They literally don't do hardly anything. There has to be something really important to bring them back into D.C. during the month of August. That is pretty much their month off. Of course, they take a long break during July 4th. They take a long Memorial Day weekend. And if you look at the congressional calendar, it only shows that they've only have scheduled 27 more days in the Congress between now and Labor Day. Now, because they do have the health care bill going, they may have a budget bill, there may be some other things going on, they can call Congress back. A lot of times they'll only call back the people they need to get the votes they need to pass a bill or do something like that. But for the most part, the month of August is when Congress, no one in Congress is hardly even in D.C. They're back in their districts, they're on vacation, they're out raising a lot of money during that time. And actually their campaigning and money raising is already happening. It's really kind of during the summer. Excuse me. July, like the end of June, July, they're really doing a lot of money raising. They still have to do some business in Washington. They'll fly in, they'll vote on something or participate in something. They'll go back to their district. So they're kind of out of Washington a lot in the summer. They're only there if they need to be there for a vote or hearings or something like that. That's why if you see C-SPAN and you see, what's going on in the Congress, you'll see there's hardly anybody there. The only person speaking is the actual guy there. No one's actually out there listening to him. The only people that show up to the vote are people who have to vote. The only people in the hearings are the people who have to be there. Everyone else is back home in their district or on vacation or raising money. So it's kind of a slow time, for the most part. And that's kind of how the schedule works. Now, I remember during the Gingrich revolution, when the Republicans won in '94, they had a real active agenda with 10 things they wanted to get done. And I remember Newt kept them there almost all summer, working on those 10 items, of which he, I believe, passed 7 of them. And because I remember they were kind of upset, they were kind of mad that Newt was calling them back for votes. But I think they were called back a couple times in the month of August to vote on a couple things because the president was ready to sign the big Welfare Reform Act, if I remember correctly. That vote was called in. They called people back in August because they had been negotiating. They got Clinton right where they wanted him, and they said, okay, he's ready to go. He's ready to support it. We got enough people here on the Democrat side. We got enough votes here. And they just started calling people back. Come to Washington. Let's come and take this vote. Let's get this done. Then you go back home. So there are reasons, of course, if you have a major national security event, a terrorist attack, something like that, they'll come back to Washington. But for the most part, pretty slow time of year in Washington right now. Trump gave a speech in Iowa, and it's just absolutely amazing to look at the way the crowd responds. It's really watching a little bit of video of it. It's just like when he was campaigning during last summer when he was campaigning for the presidency, and those huge crowds and people campaigning overnight. And it's amazing the way that Donald Trump connects with his base. I mean, his base loves him. I mean, it's amazing. You would think with the beating he's been taking that the rallies wouldn't have quite the same energy, enthusiasm. But I mean, that rally last night, it could have been a rally from September or October of last year before the election. There was actually some media people who went out and did a story the day before showing people actually coming 24 hours early, setting up campers, grilling out, doing all these things, and they were being interviewed. And these reporters, these liberal reporters, just couldn't believe all the enthusiasm and excitement for Donald Trump, even though he's won the presidency and all the things that have been happening. The fact that there are people who are still so supportive, and it's because Trump is a really great communicator. He's not perfect. He reminds you of you. He doesn't pretend to be perfect, doesn't try to be perfect. People understand the difficult situation he's in, or anyone would be in his position. It's not an easy job. But the fact that he had the courage to go for it, the fact that he had the talent to accomplish it, and the fact that he's a fighter. You can't keep him down. As much as they've tried to beat him down, he has now beat back the assaults. He has turned the tables on them, and he's back in the driver's seat. And he's an extraordinary person, I believe, despite all his various flaws and things that we all have. I think he will go down in history as one of our great presidents. I really do, because the greatest presidents we had were a lot of times the great communicators. And Donald Trump definitely knows how to communicate. In the rally that he gave in Iowa, just look at the video. It's just, you would think it's last fall, a week before the election. Absolutely amazing. So anyway, that's good news. Of course, the fallout from the loss of the Georgia election, and now we're seeing the Democrats. It's even worse than I thought. I mean, I couldn't believe we actually had Democratic members of Congress coming out today, being interviewed, going on CNN and MSNBC and saying, yeah, Pelosi, she needs to go. We've lost 1,000 seats in the last 3 or 4 election cycles. She has no plan. We just keep losing and losing and losing. And so the long knives have come out for Nancy Pelosi. She's under vicious attack. And I will make a prediction right here and now. She's probably got enough cronies around her to resist the pressure to step down right now. Although it wouldn't surprise me if they forced her out. But she's pretty entrenched. She's got a lot of powerful people, big money people behind her who control her. She's essentially a puppet. And so they love having Nancy Pelosi there because she simply does what she's told. She's a loyal servant of the deep state, and they like that. They don't like change. They like what they got, and what they got is a puppet who they control. But definitely the long knives are out for Nancy Pelosi. She was even forced to go out and defend herself, and it was extraordinary to watch Nancy Pelosi. I have a couple quotes here that are just amazing. She said about herself, she said, quote, "I am a master legislator, strategic, and politically astute." First of all, that second statement, when she said it doesn't really make sense. It's not, doesn't make sense. I am strategic and politically astute. Yeah. So, I mean, she's losing her mind. But you have to remember that in 1967, Nancy Pelosi was in the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. She was one of those young ladies who would walk up and down the street, tripping on acid, passing out flowers, and singing, if you're going to San Francisco, be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. There'll be a lot of devil people there, according to Robert Plant from the live version of Zeppelin. Song remains the same. Devil people there, devil people there. Yes, that's what he said. Well, listen to the vinyl. Okay, so Nancy Pelosi's in some deep kimchi. And like I say, if in the 2018 election, she might resist now because she has so many power players behind her. But if Pelosi and the Democrats do not pick up some seats in the House, or if they actually lose 3 or 4 seats, which I think is very likely in the Senate in 2018, she will be gone. she will not be able to remain speaker, or I mean, minority leader, if in fact the Dems have that kind of an upset in 2018. That will be it. It will be over for her. She's clinging on to her power right now by her fingernails, and she might be able to hold on. But if the Democrats do as poorly in the 2018 midterms as I think that they're going to do, because typically the party out of power in the first midterm election after a new president is elected, they 98% of the time, I think it is, they gain seats in the House. It's very likely that the Democrats could lose seats. That would be extraordinary, almost unprecedented, which is why she would be forced to resign as Speaker. And of course, when you resign, or minority leader, when you resign as minority leader, you usually leave the Congress. She wouldn't stick around and just be another member of Congress at that point. She'd be gone, which she should be. She's senile. And you hear some people talking about even her supporters, even the people who voted for her to remain the minority leader, are saying things like, well, you know, she just needs to refocus, and she needs to focus on this, or she needs to concentrate on the youth movement. She needs this, she needs that, whatever, trying to offer some support, while you have other Democrats that are saying, no, she just needs to go. But let me help you Democrats to tell you what Nancy Pelosi really needs. What Nancy Pelosi really needs is a taxidermist. Okay. Another thing that was that's very telling, and that's been talked about by a lot of these Democrats, who a couple of these guys I watch interviews with, one woman, one man, current members of Congress, Democrats, one on MSNBC, one on CNN, both talking about the fact that Nancy Pelosi's time is up. She needs to go. They were talking about the fact that in a lot of the ads that were ran in that Handel versus Ossoff competition there in Georgia, that one of the things they were doing in those ads against Ossoff was tying him to Nancy Pelosi. They would show him on the screen and her, and say, basically, you like Pelosi, you want more of what Pelosi's all about, because she runs the show. And if you elect this guy, you are essentially empowering Nancy Pelosi. And it's believed that that had a pretty big effect on that election. She was asked about that in a press conference today, and she, of course, debunked it, or tried to debunk it. But there's no question that it was effective, and there's no question that Nancy Pelosi is feeling the pressure. But again, she is essentially brain dead. So I don't know if she's capable of even grasping anything, as entrenched as she is and surrounded by people who prop her up, yes men and people like that. I mean, I think she just lives in a bubble. I don't think she really is in touch with reality the way you and I would be. So, but she will get a reality check in 2018. I think the Republicans could pick up 4 seats in the Senate. Democrats are hoping to take over the Senate. That ain't going to happen. They were expecting to pick up several dozen seats in the House. I would not be surprised if they pick up less than half dozen. And if they lose seats in the House, that will be historic, literally historic. She will be gone the next day, the day after the election. She will be gone. She won't even give a speech. She'll just disappear. It will be over, and the Democrats will be having to face the harsh reality of their circumstances, which many of us have been trying to bring to their attention. They have not been capable of seeing that, and I would not be surprised to see Tom Perez be ousted. He is a Hillary Clinton surrogate, and he's a disaster. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the entire old guard. If they get hammered in 2018 the way I think they might, you could see a major, change in the Democratic Party, from top leaders in the DNC, House positions, Senate positions. You could see a major turnover, because at some point they are going to be a minority party that's not even capable of even competing on the international stage, and let alone the national stage or anywhere else. So big trouble for the Dems, and they deserve every damn bit of it for being such nasty, nasty people. putting themselves and their party interest ahead of the country. It's despicable and it's shameful. Okay. Oh yeah, Donald Trump. I love President Trump. He has, it was funny back during the primaries, and Republican primary. If you remember, Donald Trump gave a nickname to all of his opponents. Low Energy Jeb and Little Marco and all the names he had for these people. Well, he's now got a pet name for Chuck Schumer, and the thing that Schumer should be worried about is those pet names that Donald Trump came up with were very, very effective. And he understands that. Again, he's a master communicator. He understands these things. So Trump has now got a new nickname that he's using on Twitter for Chuck Schumer. He's calling him Crying Chuck Schumer. Crying Chucky. So, yes, Crying Chuck Schumer is how you'll hear Donald Trump refer to Chuck Schumer from now on. He will be calling him Crying Chuck Schumer. That's really funny and very effective. So that's good. Hey, a photograph of James Comey and his wife popped up 24 hours ago. Did you see that? It's a great photo. Well, you don't really get much of a face shot because they're running into the offices of the New York Times. Yes, a photograph of James Comey and his wife jumping out of a sort of a suburban limo with bulletproof glass and tinted windows, trying to be covert and sneaky, jumped out of this vehicle and moved quickly into the revolving doors of the New York Times. This occurred on June 22nd, 2017 at 7:39 p.m. You can Google it and look at the photo. Yes, there's Jim Comey. I imagine he's going into the New York Times. Maybe he's looking for the leakers there. Maybe he's looking for the killer of Ron Goldman and Nicole Simpson, but he might want to get with OJ on that. Maybe they can get together and go golfing and discuss where the murderer of OJ's wife and her boyfriend is, because maybe he's hanging out with one of the leakers that James Comey is trying to find. So James Comey may be at the New York Times trying to find the leaker. It'd be my only guess why him and his wife would be visiting the New York Times on June the 22nd, 2017 at 7:39 p.m. and hoping to do so without being noticed. Unfortunately, pretty damn hard in that particular section of the city, New York, to be anywhere without being captured in a photograph or on a video. Good old Jim Comey. He's a very, very astute man. Very intelligent guy, clearly. Wonder what they were going to talk about to the New York Times. Hey, Johnny Depp. I actually like Johnny Depp movies, quite a few of them. Some of them suck, but he's made some pretty good movies. But the guy is a real a-hole. I'm sure most of you know that. Johnny Depp was on a show, and he asked the following question. He said, hey, when was the last time that an actor assassinated a president? That's a good question. My guess is probably Lincoln and Booth. Of course, we know what happened to Mr. Booth. Shortly after assassinating the president, he was shot dead in a hail of gunfire, and his legacy is not one that would make you proud, let's just say. But here's another question for you, Johnny Depp. When was the last time a Hollywood actor who nets over $200 million a year couldn't afford to make the payments on his credit cards and was contacted by his financial advisor and told, hey, Johnny, guess what? You got to sell the plane. To which Depp replied, oh, I can't sell the plane. I'd have to fly commercial. Can you imagine the paparazzi and everything? I can't sell the plane. Sell some of that stock I've got. Sell some of this. Sell some of that. Blah, 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 blah. So unfortunately, his financial advisor had to advise him that they have already sold a lot of that stuff, to which Johnny wanted to know where in the world he got the authority to do so, and he reminded Johnny Depp that according to his contract with Johnny, he has the full authority to get rid of some of those assets, including stock and things and such, in order to meet his payments. He was also reminded by his financial advisor that he had been contacted several times and told that, yeah, you make $200 million a year, that's some pretty good cash. Unfortunately, you spend about $350 million a year. And eventually, when you spend $150 million more than you earn per year, eventually you go bankrupt. So, Johnny Depp, when was the last time a fairly overrated $200 million a year actor went bankrupt. It's pretty hard to do. Very, very hard to do. Johnny should be flying commercial. And by the way, Johnny, you may want to prepare for a visit from the Secret Service. They generally don't take things like that with much humor. Trump, again. Love Trump. He knows he's got to be having a great time. I mean, he's got to be laughing his ass off sitting there in the White House the way he plays the media the way he does. It's like he's like a yo-yo. He just plays them like a Stradivarius. He tweaks them and triggers them, and he knows just how to set them off. And then he gets them time and time and time again. It's almost like watching the Roadrunner or something, where the Roadrunner's constantly trying to get, the Coyote's constantly trying to get the Roadrunner, but he's always foiled. He's always foiled. And this is what Trump is. He's like the Roadrunner, and the media is like the Coyote, that they can never actually get him. So Trump, of course, if you remember about a week and a half ago, he said, he made the comment about the tapes and said, you're going to be very surprised. Many of you are going to be very surprised in the media to learn about what I have to say about these tapes or recordings. He set them up. He had them talking about it. He had them all excited, thinking he was going to come out and tell them that he's got these tapes or whatever. But he comes out today and gives a conference and says, "Oh, by the way, the tapes. Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that up in the press conference. Well, I'm not aware of any tapes actually existing. I'm not aware of any recordings or tapes or anything like that. So he just had him going for like a week and a half on this, man, and he even got James Comey to react to it. Oh Lordy, I sure hope tapes exist. Yeah, right, Jim. So he just continues to play the media like a fiddle. But he comes out today and says, as far as he knows, there's no tapes or recordings that exist. And kind of a local story here. If you live in North Carolina, Maura, our lovely and talented friend Maura, who joins us in the comments section on a regular basis, who we all love very much, may have a little work to do there in North Carolina because it appears here, and this made the national news headlines, Maura, you may have already heard about it. Yes, a teacher in North Carolina demanded that the white students in her class stand up and apologize for their white privilege. Now, and see, in my community, I don't know about like where you live, Maura, as far as I know, you told me roughly where you live. I'm not familiar with the political, affiliation of most people in your district. But in my particular district, that teacher would have been fired. So there you go, Maura. You might want to find out a little bit more about this teacher who demanded that her white students stand up and apologize for their white privilege. I don't know about you guys, but when I clocked in this morning, about an hour and a half after I clocked in, I was on overtime. And when I got up, which means I was on overtime all day today, I'll be on overtime all day tomorrow, which we're supposed to be having a cookout, despite the fact that it's going to be raining all day. We'll see how the cookout goes. This kind of stuff is just, it's hard to believe that in the public schools that these things are happening. And but the white privilege thing, I woke up this morning, and after the week we've had in the past couple weeks, I literally felt like I'd been in a car accident, and I felt that way about for the past week and a half. I mean, I'm getting up and I'm like, I'm like the Tin Man. I'm like, I'm needing oil or something. The time I get to work, I have to like kind of move around just to loosen up because we're getting beat up so bad. And the reason is we have 3 main warehouses where we ship these GM auto parts. One of our warehouses is reconfiguring its warehousing, and so all of their orders are being flowed to us. We are putting out approximately 2,000 to 3,000 more lines of orders than we do in a typical day. And in a typical day, it's still a butt buster, but we are getting hammered, my friends. We typically work a 10-hour day. Sometimes it'll drift into 11. We've been pulling a lot of 13-hour, 14-hour days. We just can't get out of there. I mean, the orders just keep coming. They just never quit coming. We can't leave until the last orders are out because they have to go out on the FedEx truck by 9 p.m. We have to have all the orders processed and on the truck by 9 p.m. And so we can't leave till the orders are processed. And so we are working our tails off. So I don't feel much white privilege. No, I do not. And I'm sure most of you don't either. It's absolutely pathetic. But I'm sure that Maura will get right on that. I'm just playing with you, Maura. Hey, I got to be honest with you. John Boehner was my congressman here for 20 years. So I really have. I shouldn't be talking, And I tried hard to get rid of Boehner. I harassed him for the entire time he was my congressman. I called his office 2-3 times a week, sent him emails. They quit taking my calls, So I did my part. But anyway, I know how it feels to have something like that in your district. It's kind of frustrating. There's only so much you can do, but that's what a teacher in North Carolina had her white students do. I think it's horrible. One final thing, because it is Fun Friday, right? Is there anything more fun than Trump tweaking and jerking the libs around? So here's something that Trump also said in his press conference today. He's talking about his wall, which he is determined to get his wall. Now, Trump has asked for many different people to submit design ideas to him for his wall, which he is hell-bent on getting. Even if the Republicans don't want it, the Democrats don't want it, Trump ain't backing down from his wall. He wants his wall. So he came out today and he talked about this idea. One of his favorite ideas as a design for the wall is this wall, which has got solar panels on the tops of the wall. So he wants to line the entire southern border with this wall, which at the top of it has all these solar panels. The benefit being that those border states will be able to take the energy that is captured by those solar panels, which would be then transferred through cabling into the power grid system, and feed that energy into the power grid system, which would drastically lower the utility bills of those people there living in those border states. New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California, Texas would all benefit greatly from this idea. But the thing is how it would tweak the environmental lefties who've had no success whatsoever in their push for a global carbon tax, for the Paris Accords or anything else. Trump isn't buying into any of it. Neither am I. Most of you are not as well. But just the fact that he would propose this wall and now suggest that they put these solar panels, which would make us, if you had the entire southern border with solar panels on top of the wall, think how much energy and how much the greeny weenies would love that. Not only that, because you would have the need for so many hundreds of thousands of solar panels, you would probably have to have 2 or 3 companies start up which could actually succeed and make a profit. And then they would probably be successful enough to operate on such a scale that they could actually be very, very competitive with the Europeans. And they might even be able to export some of them products, creating some new businesses, thousands and thousands and thousands of new jobs. Probably jobs that a lot of liberals would like to take because they'd be producing solar panels for this border wall. It would also take the environmental issue and make Donald Trump look like the single largest environmental project in the history of the world, which would make him the king of environmentalism, the king of green energy. Donald Trump it would take him from being the enemy of the green energy movement to being the world's greatest hero. He would be the King Kong of green energy, and he would get his border wall. Do you see the way that he's playing these people? Like a Stradivarius. They say the man has a 159 EQ, and he very well may have. Just absolutely fun as heck watching this guy operate, man. I'm so loving it. So anyway, just some kind of fun things today for Friday. These are all good things, so we should all be very, very happy. And certainly hope you guys have a good weekend. If you're like me and you live in this part of the country, you're probably going to get rained out most of the weekend. I think it's supposed to clear up Sunday, though. So anyhow, I do appreciate y'all tuning in, subscribing. I love reading your comments, participating in the discussion. A lot of really smart, talented people that check out my YouTube videos. Haven't heard from Lim in a while. Wonder what he's doing. Might be on vacation or taking a break. He always offers some interesting words of wisdom. So I like reading his stuff, but I like reading all you guys' stuff. So anyway, I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll be back to Saturday evening with the Saturday evening video. But you guys have a good Friday. Have a good weekend, and we'll continue to follow the news and TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.